format. Okay. Most of the time it provides multiple choice question. You are expected to list down. Sometimes it's in the form of a statement. Okay, the statements are reflecting or measures the definition. It encompasses to measure the definition of the theoretical definition. So all the items appears to be the answers that you have given for the respondent to respond. So the limitation, there's no fixed limit, it varies. Sometimes it can be just 2, sometimes it can be 15, okay, or more. But it's best to be concise and as much as you can to cut down the list. Sometimes it is redundant, sometimes it can overlap the same meaning but says in a different way, different choice of words. Okay. This is another example of closed format question, which are the gadgets that you cannot live without. Okay. Right, this is another example of closed format. The question, entity responsible for the project, A, B, C, D. It can also be in this form. Okay. So this is one way to format. It is concise and it is comprehensive yet concise. This is a good way to think of formatting. Your question on the left. Okay. Right, leading question. Question that force audience for a particular type of answer. Okay. So in leading question, all answers would be equally likely. Okay. So an example of leading question would be a question with choices such as fair, good, great, poor, superb, excellent. So this is a standard for leading question. Okay. So how would you rate the product of XYZ Corporation? Right. Important question. You ask the respondent to rate on a scale of 1 to 5. It helps you to understand things that hold significance to your respondent and allow you to make the business critical decision. Okay, most of the time it's for business use. Right, so cost-effective services are, right? Okay, Likert question. You ask your respondent to state the level of agreement on particular statement that you have listed. Okay, right. So this is an example of a Likert scale question. You ask the level of agreement on the statement related to shared domain knowledge. Dichotomous is yes or no, right? Bipolar, you set at a continuum, efficient, inefficient. So in between, the respondent would mark. It's like in a medical, if you ask your patient, how is the pain today? Okay, least painful, very painful. Maybe you can have 10. Then if it is average or the pain is less today, it would be like 1 to 5 or 1 to 2. Okay, so you have a continuum or a scale in this form. Rating scale question, you ask the respondent to rate. Okay, good, fair, poor, very poor. So make sure you put the value there. One is good. If not, it might be misunderstood and understood. Some might think one is very poor. So make sure you spell out the number, the value of the number. Okay. So closed question, the advantages and disadvantages have been explained earlier, right? So closed-ended. The problem here is maybe you have not provided all important answers. You might miss some of the item, right, or some of the answers. So to overcome this, at the end, okay, this is when I said that I would show this in my questionnaire after the whole slide of part 4. At the end of each question that involve and if you are sure you are uncertain that there might be more answers, you put others please state and you leave a few lines, so that when the respondent feels that there are more answers or more items, the respondent can fill in the blank. Okay. Okay. Question to be avoided. Do avoid using negative because this can be confusing. Just look at this. ICT do not make one to be creative, agree or disagree. Or ICT do make one to be creative. You immediately would ponder on the first example. ICT do not make one to be creative. Okay, so that's the difference. Why not is not advisable, because it's difficult to understand. Right. Avoid bias. Okay, so there are questions that encourage respondents to answer in certain ways. Do you agree or disagree to the statement, the country will be poor if staff in the public sector often demand for pay increase? Ramai tak akan setuju, siapa yang tak nak naik gaji tak? Okay, so this kind of question is a bit biased, yeah? So make sure you avoid such question. Double barrel question. Double barrel means you want to ask two items in one, two things in one item. Okay. I will use the computer in teaching if it is easy to use and do not take a lot of my time. So ada dua item kat sini. Kadang-kadang tak semestinya you agree on both. So kalau case macam ini, kita pecahkan kepada dua item. Okay. Okay. You cannot, in this case, if you put the item in one, then there could be more than one answer that needs to be given concurrently. Okay. Embarrassing question, do not ask personal or private matters because these are embarrassing questions. Why? You would face the risk of losing the trust of your respondent. So don't put your respondent in an uncomfortable situation. Hypothetical question, don't ask somebody who is not or who has no experience or is incapable of giving the answer, because especially in this case, if you were the CEO of an ABC organization, what would be the changes that you would bring? Okay, because he is not a CEO, he can't possibly provide you the answers. Okay, so in this case, you should not force your respondent to provide their ideas or opinion for something that he is not experienced in. Social desirability of question and answer. In this example, what I mean by social desirability, a male respondent may agree that woman's place is in the kitchen, but would refrain from giving his genuine opinion because it reflects, if you ask this question, ask yourself whether the respondent would feel uneasy or disturbed or feel offended. So when you feel that, well, I think the respondent is not going to like it, you feel uneasy, so don't ask, because many would disagree even though they agree, or maybe even though they disagree, they seem to agree because the person who questioned is a woman. Okay. Right, type of statement. This is to show you that it's best to state the statement on the left and then the level of agreement on the right. And these are statements relating to attitude. Because like I say, questionnaire does not involve just question, but it is also followed by statement that measures the construct of the variable. Okay. Items should be clear. In this case, if you want to ask opinion about peace plan, make sure which peace plan, okay? And make sure you ask a respondent who has a deep knowledge about the concept that you are interested in. Respondent must be able to answer reliably. So in constructing your question, make sure that the respondent can answer reliably. For example, how many hours per day do you use the internet? If you ask this question, then the respondent would have to think and start recalling last week, how many hours. I don't think the respondent would bother. Dia tak kisah. Takkan dia nak kira kan, ataupun menyusahkan. Jangan menyusahkan. Bila kita tanya soalan, kita kena tanya, adakah ia menyusahkan responden, ya? So kalau contohnya, how frequent do you use the internet, dan kita beri jawapan dia, dan dari sini responden boleh pilih, okey lah, saya rasa saya guna, I use once in a while, weekly. If dia pakai everyday, then it's straightforward, everyday, dia jawab everyday, right? Okay. Questions asked should be relevant to many. Okay, so because to the large number of respondents, because if not, many cannot answer, then you would not get your data. Okay, or they would purposely answer just for the sake of answering, but you get inaccurate response. Okay. Avoid long question. If it is difficult to frame, then you break down the question into two shorter questions so that it is clear and easy to understand. Okay, avoid ambiguous question. For example, if you want to ask about support, if you use welfare, it is ambiguous, but aid for the poor, it is more specific, because research has shown, see, for 62.8% stated too little is allocated for the poor rather than too little is allocated for welfare. Is the respondent likely to have the necessary knowledge? Right, so if you wish to ask a question about future strategic plan of the organization, then you ask somebody who is involved in the strategic plan. Yeah. Contingency question. This is when I want to show in my questionnaire. So there are questions that are only relevant to certain group. Therefore, you relate them. Relate the earlier question to the next question where only certain number of people who can answer would proceed. Okay. Right. This is an example of contingency question. Question that need to be answered only when respondent provide a particular response to a question prior to them are recalled contingency question. Okay. Have you ever smoked a cigarette? Yes or no? If yes, how many times have you smoked cigarette? Then you provide the next one. The second question above is what we refer to as contingency question. You can see more example from my questionnaire. Okay, in formatting, these are some of the guidelines. It should not be uncluttered, right? You avoid abbreviation, avoid double barrel, provides boxes and space. Now, all these I will show you in my questionnaire, and make sure the instruction is clear. Okay, and the statement, make sure 1, 2, 3, you state 1 is strongly disagree, 4 is strongly agree. Okay, order of question, ask demographic question first, open-ended, or some prefer open-ended question first. So it all depends, but I think for us in our local context, it's best to ask easier question, which is demographic question. Vary the types of question in your pre-test because you can make changes, you can adapt and things like that, so that you don't miss the question that you want to ask, you don't leave them out. Okay. Format of survey question differs from interview question I mentioned earlier. You make sure you ask easy and interesting question first, those which are easy to answer. Instruction, making sure it is clear. You must include an introduction like what Dr. Ismadi have shown. The statement I have given earlier, how to state your question, how to list your statement or your item. Okay. If you want them to rank, make sure you state the respondent that you want them to rank. Okay. So there are examples that MPWS have emailed to you. I would now want to show you as the conclusion before I show you my questionnaire. Again, I would like to examine the purpose of your questionnaire based on your research question and objective. Construct items which are going to be useful for your research. If you are not sure of the best question to ask, you can ask similar question more than once. Okay. Right, so all the guidelines given in designing the questionnaire are very important. This is to ensure that you collect relevant data for data analysis and interpretation. Right, that's it. I would now want to share you my questionnaire. Right. So this is my questionnaire. This is my introduction letter. The first part is the demographic. I've put into double column. You see how much space I have saved. 7 questions in 1 page. Okay. Initially, my questionnaire was 20 pages. After much review by my supervisors, I reduced to 15. But finally, my supervisor gave me a sample of a questionnaire, not questionnaire, but income tax form. And based on the income tax form, I formatted it this way, and I reduced to 7 pages. The first page is the introductory letter. Okay, so this is the format. Okay, now I would want to show you the contingency. Right, this is to overcome if there is a limitation, if there are more information need, right? I've tried to cover, but if there are more, then the respondent can list. This is for information source. I think I have comprehensively covered, but I put a open for government agencies and others. Okay, right. Another one is the contingency that I want to show. Right, the asterisk, use electronic media at the bottom. If you use electronic media to obtain information, please answer question 12. This is from the prior question to the next, okay? And another asterisk, if you do not use external online database service, please answer question 13 to 15. If you use, answer question 16 to 22. This is contingency question. You route the respondent to the next. Okay, all right. And lastly, you can also ask an open-ended here. It does help because then whatever comment they give or whatever extra, it helps in you explaining or in your discussion why your data analysis result is such. Okay, right. I would like to highlight sometimes you can purposely repeat certain item in order to do data cleaning, in order to identify whether the respondent is answering reliably or not. Okay, let me show you. For section B, C, okay, under information source, online database service, right? If the respondent answer 4 or 5, so you go to the next one, right? Electronic media. Online is an electronic media. At least you should answer 4. And another one under electronic media, online database services, she should answer 4. Right. So if their answer differs, then you cannot use the questionnaire. That's the reason why when you report in your data analysis, before you analyze, you state how many questionnaires you receive, how many usable questionnaire after you do data cleaning. Okay, you scan through and select which you can use and which you cannot use. Okay. All right. Any question? I think I have shared whatever examples from my previous student and my own questionnaire and some of the framework and also the construct I've used from previous research and also from my former PhD students. Okay. Okay. Anybody want to ask any question?